have challenges when communicating up and down the organisation? If you do, you're not alone. When you become a team lead, supervisor, middle manager, or move from manager to director, your style of communicating may need a bit of an overhaul. Let's explore how to be precise in using language to achieve the best outcomes for you and your organisation. I'm Julie Silfverberg of the Success Partners. First, let's consider the organisation chart and how it influences your choice of language and the questions you choose. The organisation chart shows the level of thinking at various levels. At the CEO level, it's a really big picture, a zoomed out perspective, which looks to the future. Looking to the future can't be too specific because it is, as yet, unknown, but sets the vision for the organisation. Therefore, much of the language is abstract, conceptual, and vague. At the middle management level, a generalisation I know, actually, anytime you're reporting up or delegating, then you're a translator. It requires awareness on your part and great flexibility with how you use words. You're either translating from the concepts down into manageable and implementable tasks, or you're reporting the outcomes of those tasks. As you've probably noticed yourself, the person with the most flexibility has the most influence. They talk the other person's language and so build rapport efficiently and are effectively heard. Then, at this level, where a lot of stuff, technical term, gets done, and there are plenty of tasks to complete, this is a zoomed-in perspective. Details and specifics are essential. Just think of leaves and twigs rather than the forest. Each person needs to know what to do, how to do it, in some cases, what the expected result is, and when it needs to be completed. But you know all that already. Let's look at the chunking model to demonstrate what to become even more aware of and how to adjust your language depending on the context, from big chunk, abstract concepts, down to small chunk, fine details. As an example, as you look at the model here, in the middle you see car, boat, plane, bus, bike, and so on. When you ask the question, what do these all represent? Or what are these examples of? You probably get the response, transport. Alternatively, when you ask, for example, what does a car do for you? You'll get the answer, it transports or moves you from one place to the other, as will any of the other forms of transport. Let's look at the three main questions to ask when you want to chunk up. For what purpose? What is your intention? And what does that do for you? You may find you need to modify the question slightly depending on the situation, and the key is that the question chunks up to a higher level of abstraction. As you can see here, if I ask a car for what purpose, the answer might be transport. And what does that do for you? The answer might chunk up to, it gets me to work. Whereas if the question was, what does the plane do for you? Well, in my case, I'd jump to enjoyment. An important aspect of chunking is that things become more similar and also easier to agree with. One point to notice in this model as you look around it is nowhere do you see the question, why? Now, you may be curious as to why that might be. Well, why delivers unpredictable results? You can't know whether the person is going to move up, down, or sideways in the model. Furthermore, the why question in the context of problem solving leads to justification and excuses. That said, why can be very useful in specific circumstances, and that's for another day. The benefit of chunking up and down questions is they're very precise, which means you achieve predictable results. You know by your question if you're asking for more detail or more abstraction. And using the chunking down questions, you're creating more detail. This is essential when delegating, for example, because you need to have the who, what, where, when, and how to delegate effectively. When you're looking for more information, chunking down using the words specifically or precisely will get you higher quality information because you'll get specifics rather than a range of options. That said, you may also find it imperative to keep your voice tonality soft and your body language curious and open, or it could feel like an interrogation for the other party. When faced with a problem in business, there can be a tendency to drill down to get into the nitty-gritty details of the issue. But this is a surefire way to get bogged down. The next time you face a challenge in business or elsewhere, instead, chunk up to get the real high-level problem. As Albert Einstein said, we can't solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. So by chunking up, asking what is this an example of, it moves you sideways, enabling you to use a different line of thinking when you chunk back down. By then, asking what are other examples of this. After that, you chunk further down into the details of how the solution can be implemented. Does all this make sense to you? Let me know how you get on experimenting with increasing your awareness of the language both you and others use, and playing around with increasing your linguistic flexibility. Till the next time, I'm Julie Silfverberg of the Success Partners.